Hello, welcome to How to Help Your Arthritic Dog at Home. I wanted to share two statistics with you. The first is to show how unfortunately common arthritis is, and it states that more than one third of all dogs, so regardless of age, will suffer from the condition. The second statistic, and the one that really drives me to educate people about the importance of strengthening exercises as a form of arthritis management, is that sadly arthritis is the second highest reason for elective euthanasia in our dogs. And so if we can manage our arthritis better for our dogs, it means that they can have less pain, better function, and better quality of life, and ultimately a longer length of life as well. So just to quickly introduce myself, I'm Kylie, I'm a husky mum, and I'm a physio, and I love talking about exercises for dogs. So let's start by going deeper into what arthritis is. So usually people think that arthritis is just a disease of the cartilage, and although this is true, it's not the whole truth. So arthritis is an inflammation of the entire joint, and within a joint there is a lot more than just the cartilage. So we can see from this picture that we have the bones, then we have some fluid, which is what has all those little spots in there. And then to hold it all together, there's a capsule, and then there's some lining, and then there's the external soft tissue. And so what happens within the joint with the inflammation is that the cartilage wears down, the bone can be exposed and can be very painful. There can be additional bone growth. That fluid gets really thin and doesn't lubricate the joint as well. And then the capsule gets stiff and thick. And then we've also got what happens outside of the joint, and that is particularly what happens with the muscles. So when there is pain in an arthritic joint, it switches off the surrounding muscles, and what happens is those muscles don't work as well. They get weaker and they shrink. And so if we have stronger muscles surrounding an arthritic joint, it is more supported, so there's less pain, there's better movement, there's better function, there's better quality of life, and again, ultimately a longer length of life as well. So arthritis can look differently in different dogs, and a dog may have one or all of these symptoms and still be diagnosed with arthritis. But common symptoms can include resting more because of the pain. They just want to rest because movement is painful. They can be limping due to their pain. They can slow down on walks or just stop completely. They will have an increased difficulty getting up on surfaces that they could have done previously, so couches, beds, and cars. They are slower, and it's more difficult for them to stand up from lying because this requires a lot of muscular force to lift them up from the floor. And so the weakness that occurs with arthritis makes it really hard, and also might just be hard to and painful by changing position because the joint feels stiff. And also the legs can give way as well. So here are some strategies that are based more on our physiotherapy principles. And they include heat, cold therapy, supplements, massage, range of motion, stretching, and strengthening exercises. And I want to emphasize that none of these should replace any medication that your vet might prescribe. So this is all kind of in addition to. So the first is heat and ice therapy. And arthritic joints love heat, and you can use a microwavable heat pack that you put in the microwave, wrap it around in a towel. Make sure that you can tolerate the warmth of it before you put it on your dog. So that it won't cause a burn for them. You generally don't want to use like a electric blanket unless you want to put that under linen so that it's not in direct contact with the fur, and again can be a risk of burns. Depending on the dog, obviously Simba here didn't need additional clothing like jumpers, but obviously in the cold weather it's good for arthritic dogs to have additional attire. So having a jumper or a jacket around the house or with walks is helpful. Keep their beds away from drafty places, so put them in a nice warm environment so that they can rest comfortably. And what's really good for flare up, so if a dog has arthritis and they did too much activity, they can be a bit sorer than usual after, and we call this a flare up. What's actually helpful in this case is using ice, and it feels a little bit counterproductive, but it is actually just part of the way that we deal with more acute inflammation. And so you use ice therapy. So an ice pack, again, you can wrap it in a towel and then place it on the sore spot. You would use that for the first 2 days just to help decrease that acute inflammation, and then you can go back to using your heat therapy. The next thing that I would recommend as a physio is supplements. And these may improve joint health, but I do recommend that if you do use a supplement, just try and use one at a time so you can see whether or not it works. Because if you're using more than one supplement and you see an improvement in your dog, you don't actually know which supplement helped. They might be working great together, or maybe one is actually working and the other one isn't. In which case, if you knew which one wasn't, you could look at other supplements that might be able to keep helping your dog. But I wanted to stress here that supplements are not a replacement for medication. So people think that it's a natural form of pain relief, and it just doesn't work like that. So supplements help with joint pain by decreasing some inflammation, but really the foundation of our arthritis management is medication. So please, if your vet has recommended medication, please don't try and find a supplement that substitutes, because there just isn't any. And I also wanted to stress that supplements do not help grow muscle. So a lot of people say my dog's legs are thinner, they've got lots of muscle wastage. What can I give my dog to help? And the truth of the matter is that muscles will only grow when you do exercises, when you make them work so that they can get stronger. You can't I wish it was easy that we could just take a supplement and get bigger muscles, but it just doesn't work. You can use massage to help your dog. So it might not only be around the arthritic joint that's tight and sore, so you can massage around that area. But because of the compensations of the way that they're moving, they might have other stiff areas. So if they've got arthritis in their knee or their hip, they might be putting a lot of pressure on their shoulders. And so they might appreciate a massage around their shoulders as well. And the other thing that I love about massage is that, the more times we put our hands on the dog, the more times we can detect if there's any changes. And so you might massage your dog and say, oh, there's a little bump there. The next time you massage, you're like, oh, that grew a little bit. And you can detect those changes happen really early on, so you can inform your vet to see if there's any investigations needed. But it means that you're detecting them early because you're actually feeling for your dog and it's not hiding under all that fur. So another physio principle is range of motion. And this is when the dog is relaxed, but we are the ones that are moving their joint. And so the muscles are relaxed, but the joint is moving. It's getting stretched. And so it's decreasing the stiffness. And it also helps to simulate the joint movement, fluid movement as well. So stretching, again, can also help when you've got tight muscles, particularly the muscles at the front of the hip are commonly tight for a dog with hip arthritis. And so the way that you help stretch that is that you would have them side lying, their sorest tip would be up. Here I have my hand around the knee and I'm holding onto the ankle, the hock, and I'm just pulling it back so that I'm getting that nice hip stretch at the front of the hip. And then we go into strengthening exercises, and even just 5 or 10 minutes a day can make a significant difference to your dog. And if you like, I have a free Facebook group, Rehab Tips for Senior or Arthritic Dogs. So please feel free to come in and ask any questions. I'm always there. So the benefits of strengthening exercises is that it's counteracting that muscle loss that happens when the arthritic joint switches off the surrounding muscle. So we're fighting against that. So we have a more supportive arthritic joint so that we're decreasing pain, we're improving function, we've got better movement, and again, a longer life because we all want our dogs to be with us for longer. And what that practically looks like is that you might notice that on a walk, the dog doesn't limp as much. They can walk faster or further. They find it easier to jump, so they might be able to come up to the couch again. They have fewer pain behaviors, so they just appear to be in less pain. And it also means that they can access their potty quicker. So, what can happen with arthritis and pain is that it takes so long for the dog to get up in order to go to potty that they often become incontinent. And so, the stronger they are, the easier it is for them to get to their appropriate potty place so that there's no incontinence. And the reason I love exercise is because I know that they will always, always work. But of course, there are conditions. The condition is that the conditions is that they need to be done correctly. They need to be done regularly. They need to be challenging enough. And this is where it's really important that once an exercise gets too easy, those muscles will not grow. And so, in order to keep the muscles growing and getting stronger, you need to make the exercises more challenging. And so, that's progressing the exercises. And the other condition is that the disease has to be stable. So obviously, we can be doing all the exercises we like, but if the disease is progressing so badly, sometimes whatever we do around the joint, it can help, but it won't really be able to show that improvement again because we're fighting kind of, pushing a boulder uphill, dependent on the disease process at the time. And by work, I mean that you can improve the condition of the dog or at least maintain it because maintaining their function is still a win. What we don't want is to get them weaker and weaker where they're declining as far as we are able to. So I just wanted to show a couple of examples where we know that exercises have been really helpful. So Marley was diagnosed with hip dysplasia just at 1 year old. So like I said, arthritis can happen at any age. And what exercise therapy meant for her is that she didn't need a hip replacement. They were able to postpone that. And so her muscles were built up. She needed less medication. And obviously, for her mom, she was just relieved that exercise therapy really helped her dog. And then we have Winter, who's a senior girl. She was slowing down on her walks, but with exercise therapy, she was able to walk faster and further, and she was also able to jump higher again. So, with strengthening exercises, I just want to mention 3 exercises that you can start with today. So, the first one is a figure 8, and this is where you get 2 items or poles or cones, and you get the dog to walk around in the shape of an 8. So, it's turning around each of the ends. And what this helps is with weight bearing and transferring that weight as they go around. It's also really good for their spinal muscles and spinal flexibility as well. Sit to stand. So this is a harder exercise, but just doing 5 or 10 sit to stands. So you get them to sit in front of you, you take a step back, get your dog to come towards you, treat them if you have to, and keep repeating that. So they're going sit, stand, walk, sit, stand, walk, sit, stand, walk. And so we want to do that. And that's a really good exercise for their hip muscles. But of course, we need to make sure that, if they're a very advanced arthritis, this exercise might not be an appropriate one. Another one that is good for strengthening is stepping up on an unstable surface. So those 2 paws go up onto an unstable surface like a cushion, and you just get them to maintain their balance. You can progress this. So once this one becomes too easy, you can add shaking so that they're shaking with their front paws, and then you can start like lifting their rear legs. So there's ways to progress the exercises to keep on challenging those muscles to grow. So where to from here? If you would like a proven program, the Home Treatment for Arthritic Dogs course has an 8-week program and so much more to help people help their dogs at home. And it's only $149. And Angels Animals always has lots of discounts, so definitely wait until you see those. So sometimes they're like 30% off, 25% off. So definitely keep an eye out for those specials and grab that course. So thank you so much for your time, and happy exercising.